This is me, entering the portal room just 23 minutes into a random Minecraft world. But just 5 days earlier, I didn't even know how to get there in under an hour. And so to understand how I learned to beat the game in under 30 minutes, we're going to need to go back to the basics. This is how I learned how to speedrun. In a speedrun, you start with absolutely nothing, but you have one final goal: beating the game. Imagine a speedrun being like a good story. The hero starts out with no tools, no skills, and nothing to help them at the beginning. Eventually, as time passes, they gain new tools and skills where eventually in the final fight, they're prepared to win. I'm going to break down the process of going from A to B level by level like a video game, where A is where you are right now, and B is where you need to get. Okay, now let's break down what you need to win. The most obvious are ender pearls and blaze rods, which are both needed to get into the end. But then you need a way to kill the dragon, so you'll need some beds to deal damage quickly. But then again, what does that all matter if you never get to the nether? So to kick this off, let's start from the beginning at level 1. Okay, so you spawn into a world. This is A. Our current B is making a nether portal. With that in mind, I'm looking for 3 things: 7 iron, food, and lava. 3 iron for a bucket, 1 for a flint and steel, and 3 for an iron pickaxe, which will prove to be vital at the next stage. To get those items, I can use 3 different tactics: a village, a buried treasure, or a shipwreck. Think of these 3 tactics as your ticket to the train from A to B. Let's first break down the village. You can get food from the hay bales, but the iron is a bit more tricky. An iron golem gives between 3 and 5 iron. So to make up the difference, you can either get lucky with a blacksmith or trade for a bucket. You take the wheat from hay bales, trade it to a farmer for 3 emeralds, then trade those to a fisherman for a bucket of cod. As for the lava, you have to either find a surface lava pool or a pool in a cave. Village seeds are usually consistent, but they're typically slower than the other 2. Next is the buried treasure, which is typically found through the F3 screen's pie chart. You set the chart to game renderer, level, and entities. Lower your render distance and entity distance, and look for a spike in the graph by spinning around. Imagine this chart is a metal detector, and if it passes over a chunk with metal in it, it beeps. Similarly, if you look at a chunk that contains block entities such as a buried treasure chest, the orange section of the graph will spike. So if it spikes, something is in the chunk at the very corner of your screen. You'll always find the chest at the chunk coordinates 9, 9. So if you dig down and there isn't a chest, it's not in that chunk. In that chest, you'll find food like cooked salmon and cod, as well as iron, gold, and maybe some TNT or diamonds. That takes care of food and iron, but you're probably wondering how you find a lava pool in the middle of the ocean. Say hello to the magma ravine, the greatest thing Minecraft has since removed from the game. I'll detail how to make a portal in a second, but first let's talk about shipwrecks. They're pretty common, but come in many different variants. The best way to simplify them is to separate them into 3 different parts: the front, the middle, and the back. The front contains a chest with food, the middle contains a chest with a buried treasure map, and the back contains the chest with the iron. Some ships don't spawn with the front, some don't spawn with the back, and some don't have a back or middle. It's best to memorize the variants, but all you really need to know is that the back is rounded, the front is pointy, and it's best to have both. The back is the most essential since it has the iron, but I'd encourage you to find one with both. Now with your iron and food, you need some wood to craft your tools, a boat, and doors. Shipwrecks are literally made of wood, and buried treasures usually spawn near some trees. With everything set to go, we need to find our lava now, and it comes in the form of a magma ravine. This is the first thing I had to truly learn and practice just starting out because it's a little tricky to do. Here's the most basic portal setup you can make. I usually like to offhand the bucket, and then when we go down, we want to take our pick, mine this first magma in the L shape. Door, door, door. So door for breathing here, 2 doors as like the backstop right here. We're going to be placing lava against this. You want to take that block you just got, you can hit pick block, place it right there. Now you have an air gap to grab the lava. You want to grab the first lava, put it on the side, grab the lava under this magma block, put it on the side, grab the corner block right there, put it there, grab this lava, put it there. You can break this block now, put a block here, break, 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 drain the lava, light it, boom, you're done. Okay, so we've now entered the nether. We're at our new A. Our new B is getting all the items we need to beat the game from a Bastion, such as string for beds, obsidian for portals, fire resistance for the fortress and terrain navigation, and of course ender pearls for Eyes of Ender. But to first loot a Bastion, you need to find one. Immediately after loading into the Nether, open your F3 screen and pause the game. The E counter shows the entities in the game, with a number on the left being the entities on your screen, and the right being the total number of entities around you. Watch the number on the right, and if it suddenly spikes while loading chunks, there's a Bastion near you. To find it, lower your FOV and spin in a circle. You're looking for the number on the left to rise to over 30 or so, and if it does, wherever you're looking, there's probably going to be a Bastion that way. Okay, so now we're at the Bastion. These things are literal and metaphorical gold mines, and they are easily the most important part of the run. Unfortunately, this is where it gets even more complicated. There are 4 types of Bastions: bridge, treasure, stables, and housing. Each one of these bastions have unique variations, routes, and locations of the gold blocks. If you weren't aware already, looting a bastion requires an iron pick to mine the gold blocks, which you then trade to the piglins for all the items I mentioned earlier. For a deeper dive, I've linked a Rekrap tutorial in the description, which I'd highly recommend if you plan on learning the routes yourself. So after running your route of choice, mining and trading all the gold blocks, and hopefully collecting all the items you need, it's time to find a fortress. We've now made it to about the halfway point in the run. Finding the fortress will once again require the F3 pie chart, using a tactic called PIDAR. Think of this chart like a sonar scanner on a submarine, and if it detects what you have it set to find in your render distance, it shows up on the chart. We can use that fact to our advantage. Set the chart to tick, level, entities, and block entities. Turn on chunk borders, and if a spawner is already showing on the chart, drop your render distance until it disappears. Once it's gone, raise your render distance by 1 until the spawner appears. Then lower it again, reset the F3 screen, and raise it back up to 1 below the amount where it appears. So if it appeared at render distance 15, you drop it down to 14. Your render distance is like a big square around you, and if you move, it moves with you. So if you check each side of the chunk you're in, the side it appears on is the direction the fortress is in. Since you now have ender pearls and fire res, traveling in the Nether can be much faster. Once you found the fort, find a spawner and farm up some blaze rods. I like to get 7 blaze rods, but that's because the next stage of the run can get a bit tricky. Now with all the things you need to beat the game, you need to actually get to the end of the game. Luckily, speedrunners like Ninja Brain have come up with genius ways to find it super fast. You'll want to exit the Nether somewhere in the ballpark of these coordinates here, and once you've done so, you need to measure your eyes. Strongholds spawn in rings, and there are 3 in the innermost ring. The reason you go to the coordinates is because it gives you the highest chance of being close to one of these strongholds. The process boils down to lining your crosshair perfectly with the left side of the inside pixel of the eye, and then entering your exact viewing angle into a calculator that finds the stronghold. There's a whole lot of complicated math behind the scenes, but that's way out of the scope of this video. I'll have tutorials linked for how to measure the eyes as well in the description. After throwing 1 or 2 eyes, you should have the exact coordinates of the stronghold, along with the coordinates in the Nether as well. If you got 20 or more obsidian from the Bastion, you're in luck, because 1 block in the Nether equals 8 in the Overworld. So if you run to the coordinates given to you in the Nether, you should be reaching the final level 8 times quicker. If you got the correct coordinates and ran to the right spot, you'll now find yourself at the beginning of the stronghold. Unfortunately, this place is an absolute maze. Fortunately, Pyre exists. Remember what you do to find the buried treasure? If you apply the exact same technique here, you can search for the spike of the silverfish spawner with the chart. After that, you just have to try and make your way to where the spike is. With a bit of luck, you'll find yourself in the portal room. Now you finally get to do possibly the most famous speedrunning tactic, the 1 cycle. Once you've filled in the portal and have entered the end, this is where things get real. Immediately make your way to the fountain and place obsidian like this. For the 1 cycle, you'll be placing exploding beds right here to kill the dragon. The pillow of the bed is where the blast comes from, so if you trigger the explosion when this little box in the dragon's head passes over it, you'll deal max damage. So then all you have to do is wait for a perch, and the rest is history, right? Well, now I just have to do all that quickly. So on day 1, I practiced everything I needed to learn to complete a run, like building a magma portal, routing a bastion, and one cycling the dragon. On day 2, I started out by learning even more bastion routes, then started doing some real runs for practice. My big goal was to beat the game in under 30 minutes, and I managed to get a 35-minute completion on just my second day. On day 3, I only did runs, and I was on pace to beat 30 minutes twice, but both times I made major mistakes that cost me the run. Getting so close but failing made me realize that I needed to refocus back on the basics. So on day 4, I practiced my stronghold nav so I wouldn't make the same mistakes again. I was feeling good, and I thought I was easily good enough to beat 30 minutes, but I was quickly humbled after I failed the one cycle for sub 30. Knowing I could have gotten it and the seed was good enough, I felt all the blame was on me. I had to take accountability for my mistakes. Luckily, mistakes show you where you need to improve. So to start day 5, I practiced my one cycles and bastions, which were both weak points in my game. And after grinding all day, putting in hours and hours into these runs, I finally got my chance again. Let's go, baby! Let's go! Oh my goodness! 27, 40! Oh my goodness! Let's go! And so that concludes this journey, but I'm not done yet. Since hitting this run, I've dropped my personal best down to 1727. I'll be streaming speedrunning on YouTube here and maybe Twitch too, so if you could subscribe here and follow there, that'd be greatly appreciated. Peace!